Hello, Conquerors! Welcome to the Soul's Conquest by Madhurima Sappatti. As promised in our last episode, where we spoke about healing yourself, join me on this special episode where we will be joined by my longtime bestie, Mohini Mohandas, or as we love to call her, Momo. Before we jump into the episode, here's a bit about who Momo is. Momo is not a delicacy, lol, but she is my best friend. Imagine this: a bookworm and nerd goes to a bustling university city and finds out that her roommate has not arrived. She looks around and talks to people, wondering if there is anyone out in this crazy new place that she can relate to. Anyone out here that loves to read books only to draw a blank. Saddened and disheartened, she lets her hopes die, only to find that her new roommate, who just arrived, is a fellow lover of books, and she looks up to the sky, thanking all the lots above that she's not lost in this jungle. Dude, I'm so sorry. Like, I have been watching too much of Hamilton, so there's a lot of rhyming and stuff like that. Please forgive me. I've been obsessed with that show. So like I've been constantly talking in rhymes for the past few weeks. Me and my brother.
I love it.
So yeah, that's where Momo comes in. She's a great friend, and she's been through. She's been a great friend with me throughout some of life's most messed up situations. And she's a fellow coach on Instagram. One of the most brilliant girls out there. She continues to amaze and astonish and motivates me to always pull up, stay on track, and keep moving on. An amazing life coach, best friend, lover of books. Please join me in welcoming Mohini Mohandas, aka Momo, on the show. Woo! Yay! This is like the most hyped up version of an introduction that I've ever done for anyone on the show. And it just goes to show how much I love you.
Aw,
Yeah.
so sweet. I
Thanks.
love it. I love it.
Yeah. I knew you would love it. Like, if you wouldn't, like, I would just edit that part out in the.
Yes.
Okay. So Momo, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you doing?
I am doing really good. I'm so happy to be here. Ever since I heard about you launching the podcast, I wondered what you'd be talking about, who you'd be inviting on board. I know you have had a lot of topics in mind to discuss, and it's only just the beginning.
Yeah.
But I'm really happy that I'm here early on into the beginning of the podcast. I'm very happy to be here.
Yep. You are one of my witnesses. Like, you'll be the one seeing me in my journey to stardom
Yes,
and everything that I want to achieve in life.
yes,
And
from
you'll
the
hold
very
me
beginning.
accountable. You'll hold me
Yes, I
accountable.
will.
Yes.
I'll keep you rooted.
Yeah. Okay. So let's jump right into it. My first question to you is, what does healing mean to you?
Healing for me is to understand and acknowledge the needs you have and the different inadequacies that you feel within yourself, to acknowledge that, because as humans all of us do feel in some way or the other that we are not worthy enough,
Yeah.
or that we just don't come to meet our own expectations for ourselves. And for me, healing is bridging that gap between um, who we perceive to be, which is the false sense of self,
Yeah.
and who we truly are. It's just bridging that gap. And for me, it has a lot to do with doing things and practicing things that make you feel whole again, like you did when you were a child.
Yeah.
That for healing, and that's always been that how my journey has been so far.
Yeah. I love the phrase that you use, bridging the gap. How did you come across it? Like, what led you to realize the importance of healing in your life?
I think for me, I didn't grow up in a traditional background, and I did have a lot missing in my childhood that I desperately wanted to have. I didn't have a traditional childhood. So that left a lot of that left its impact. You could feel, um if you would have met me back then, you would have known that I was an extremely insecure child. I wasn't um happy with who I was or supportive of the people around me. And I had so many questions about why I existed, and why life was the way it was, and questions that no child that age should have had. And as I grew up and I realized that I do not have to be feeling this way all the time, thanks to all the literature that I read and the wonderful people that around me that I met in college, I kind of came to a realization that I need to change, that things needed to change for me for the better. And that's how my healing journey began. And it began with books, it began with people who were more enlightened than me, and my interactions with them. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that, because to be honest, there is this one thing that people are always afraid, and I've spoken a little bit about this in the beginner's journey, that we are always
Hmm.
so afraid to start something because we
Yeah.
feel like we don't have enough knowledge about it. But that's what,
Hmm.
books and people out there are there for, to help you, guide you through this journey. And healing is such an
Yeah.
important journey to, it is such an important thing to realize that you need healing. That's the very first step,
Hmm.
according to me. The
Yeah.
acknowledgement of the fact that yes, I need healing. And
Yes.
at the end of the day, healing leads you to unleash that inner child within you, which kind of connects to the first point that you made, is
Hmm.
letting your inner child live. And that's
Hmm.
just what life is about, like we are so caught up in expectations and responsibilities and things like that, that you completely forget about living. And I recently
Yeah.
posted a post also about this, that as a person, we forget to enjoy, we forget to let go and feel the freedom, because we are always thinking ki, let's do it after, like after I've reached 40 and I've earned enough, I'll let my inner child live, I'll do this, I'll do that. But there's no guarantee to the fact that whether you'll live that long or not. At least
Hmm.
2020 has
Hmm.
taught us that much, that the future is
Yeah.
completely unreliable. To you can't just be like, yeah, yeah, we'll see when tomorrow comes. Like, it's about living in the today and letting your inner child live in the present. And healing
Very
does
true.
that. Yeah. So I love that.
Yeah.
um so my question to you is, do you believe that healing begins from within?
Yes, I feel that healing begins from within, while external factors can support you in your healing journey. It begins and it continues from within. Like, there is no, I mean, you can, in the sense, you can work on your external self up to any extent. Like, you can lose all the weight that you want. You can dye your hair crazy colors. You can get surgery. But if you're not happy from within, and it's not even about being happy, if you're not at peace with yourself from within, then you haven't really healed at all. And it is also a journey that can be supported by external factors. So, um, like for you and I, we are in points of privilege in the society.
Yes, yes.
We do have a shoulder to cry on, we have a roof over our heads, we have food to eat every day. So we don't have to worry about fending for ourselves to an extent that it adds pressure to our minds and worries us. So it gives us space and time to heal and to work on our healing process. So while external factors like this can aid the healing process, it always happens and continues to happen from within. Yes, that's what I feel. What do you feel?
Yeah, I feel the same thing, but before I jump into that, like, I genuinely loved the explanation that you gave. And I completely agree, because, it does matter. Like, for me, imagine, like, I am able to heal right now because I don't have to worry about, okay, so who's gonna cook the food, or who's gonna take care of the house, who's gonna take care of the finances. These things are there, but I know that, okay, so mom can handle the house stuff. Like, I can let her be in charge of that because she's a queen and she can handle that really well. And I
Yeah.
don't have to, like, stress about things like that. And she gives me the opportunity to be myself, to explore myself. Like, I am not too constricted by responsibilities. And
Mm-hmm.
she allows me to do all these things because, and she is a support. Like, she is a shoulder I can always lean on and cry on because she's always there with me. And
Yes.
so I genuinely love the fact that, yeah, external stuff does matter. And as
Yeah.
you said, both you and I are extremely, extremely lucky and privileged to have not have to think too much in that sector. We have the time to explore
Yeah.
ourselves and to heal ourselves. And
Yes.
yeah, and coming back to your question, I do believe that healing starts from within because I feel like, healing, for me, when I think about healing, I feel that it's mostly because of the fears that we have. We
Mm-hmm.
need healing because of the fears that we create within ourselves. And that's my perspective in life, because most of the things that I need to heal from are things that I have created in my mind and in my soul.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
for me to heal, I feel like I need to acknowledge and accept that they are there, like that these fears are there. Because, in situations like this, our ego comes out, okay, and we are like, no, we are not afraid of anything, we don't have to care about stuff like this. I'm not depressed, I'm not anxious and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
when we do acknowledge it, that it
Yeah.
exists, and when we do accept it, ki, okay, this is something like this is the source of all my problems, or this is one thing that is linking to the next 10 problems. And if I reach the root of that, and if I try to heal from the very bottom of it, I can,
Yeah.
in a way, heal myself from, from all the things that I'm facing. And for me, like, again, this is my personal thing, but I feel like healing is something where I have to constantly look within myself. And
Mm-hmm.
there was this technique that I speak about, and that's something that I do, and that is to just meditate. And when I'm meditating, I go through the things that, my life is about, and I see what is creating anxiety for me, what is creating depression for me, and I deal
Mm-hmm.
with it one step at a time. Like, healing is not a process where you can just jump from one point to, like, oh yeah, I'm in need of healing too, I'm healed. There's no, it's not a it's not something
Yeah.
that you can just jump from one point to another. I feel like you need to take baby steps, and I say this all the time, not only on Instagram but also on my podcast, that it needs to be baby steps. You need to understand that this process takes a lot of time
Yeah.
and energy and
Mm-hmm.
mental strain. Because that's one thing that people don't realize, but it takes a lot of mental strain. But,
It does.
as and when the barriers come up, as and when the walls come up, dealing with those situations, accepting them, helping yourself heal. And, fears are
Mm-hmm.
something that I feel like, for me, when I am facing my fears, there's one thing that you need to understand, is that the fear also is scared of the thing that you're afraid of. So
Mm.
I always look at it, I dissociate myself, and I'm like, okay, see, this is a child, and this child is also afraid of this thing. So we need to see what we can do, what we can
Yes.
do to help this child heal. And,
Mm.
in that process, I heal myself. So it's something that I do. But yeah, I feel like healing begins from within. Sure, there are a lot
Yes.
of things that you can do, but it is also the need to accept the fact that you need to heal, acknowledge and
Yeah.
accept. That's the main thing. And yeah, that's why I
First
think
step.
healing starts from within.
That's great that we have similar lines of thought then.
Yes, obviously. I mean, we were roommates. We spoke a lot about stuff like this.
Yes. We did.
So, okay. So, do you think self healing is something that can be possible? Now, this is I feel like self healing can be possible, but what are your thoughts on it? Like, I don't want to have like a single perspective to present to all my listeners and all the people who follow this podcast and my Instagram. So I want to hear your opinion on it.
Okay, so I'll give you my perspective for myself, like what I know of me, and I'll also give you a perspective for someone very close to me, and so that I can kind of contrast between these two experiences. So, for me, I have experienced mass amounts of childhood trauma, and I would identify it as trauma because I've read about it, I've spoken to psychologists about it, and I know that what I experience is trauma. But after I started experiencing that and I acknowledged it and it had a name to it, I did not really want to seek help outside. I wanted to help myself and I wanted to heal from within because I know that that's what works for me. I do know that if I were to sit down with a therapist and talk about all these things from A to Z, it would take out an ounce of me that I don't have the ability to give right now. And I definitely do want to go for therapy at some point of time, but this has worked so far. Like this has worked for the last 5 to 6 years, and I'm at my best and I feel my best because I self healed. Like, I read books, I listened to podcasts like yours, and I spoke to people and I had conversations about this, and I had my own little support groups, and that helped me, and it helped me a lot. Like I mean it very genuinely. Like I know people are against like people not getting help,
Yeah,
and this, yeah, in this society it is seen as something that, and I'm glad that it is, I'm glad that people vouch for getting help from actual certified therapists. But I know, for me, from my gut, I knew that I had to help myself and I had to go on this journey alone, at least in the beginning. So it is definitely in the plans for me to, in the future, hire somebody to talk about this, to really just speak my heart out to somebody who would be able to um, decipher these problems scientifically as well. But for now, I feel that my soul is at peace, and that is through my own self healing journey, which took years.
yeah,
But if I were to contrast this with someone that I know very closely, a very good friend of mine, she was going through a lot of issues that she self diagnosed as mental health problems. Like she was able to tell that she wasn't feeling well and it was affecting her daily life. So when she went to a therapist, just like I did the first time, she realized that these are problems that she couldn't fix for herself. Like they were beyond her because it was
right.
beyond her understanding. And there was a lot of scientific research behind what she was feeling and why she was feeling it. So therapy helped her. Self healing, in that particular situation, she was suffering from obsessive compulsive disorder, and I know that self healing could not have helped her in that particular situation. So it really depends from person to person. For me, I am a pro self healer, and I it might also be because of the fact that I have had access to the right kind of literature, the right kind of um, people as well.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I love the contrast that you created. And okay, so here's one thing, like I too have gone to a psychologist, and the first day, like, I didn't want to go to them because I was like, okay, yeah, whatever. I don't want to get into therapy and all, but I was in that depressive state where I used to just start crying out of nowhere. And it used to be those bouts of crying where you didn't have any control over, and you're crying like someone literally died, okay? And that
Mhm.
was such a crazy thing, and this used to happen all the time with me. There was a point where this used to happen all the time, and this had fortunately or unfortunately happened when I had come back home from college to home, and I just started crying randomly. And mom
Yeah,
and my brother got scared. They were like, what the damn hell is happening?
my
Obviously.
gosh.
Yeah, and at that point of time, I was not in the right mind space to be like, okay, should I control them or should I control my crying?
Yes, yes, yes.
So I went, like, mom was like, okay, you know what, you need to get help karke. And I was like, okay. And we went to the psychologist. And
Yeah.
I don't want to be that kind of a person, but I was the kind of person who was aware about psychology. Okay, like, yeah, depression, this, that, these can be the triggers, this can be that. So I went there and I spoke with the person, the psychologist, and she was like, okay, dude, you need to get proper therapy and help. And
Mm.
I knew that I needed to get that, but in that 60-minute session, okay, where she was
Yes.
speaking to me and all that was within me was like pouring out, okay, like at least what I wanted to share was pouring out.
Yeah.
That for me felt like it was a very traumatizing thing for some reason, because I was not ready to accept these things. So all that stuff was coming out and I knew that it existed, but I didn't want to accept it. At that point I
Mm-hmm.
was just like, oh, why, why is this happening? So I know it was not the right decision, but I kind of like, put it under lock and key and shoved it back into my mind. And I was like, I don't want to get this, because it was a
Yeah.
traumatizing experience, not because of the fact that the psychologist was bad, or because because the session was bad. The session was good. The fact that I felt
Mm.
those things meant that the session was good, but I, as a person, was not ready to, let out all those things. And they were analyzing everything that I was doing, and I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't think I'll be able to, like, it will just push me into a worse state, because I
Yes.
was
Yes.
not ready to accept those things.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, at that point of time now, there is this one thing that I keep seeing. And, like, after that point, obviously, I got better because I read a lot of things and I spoke to a lot of people. Not, and I
Yes.
didn't get professional help. That was one thing that I didn't get, because I knew that I wouldn't, my mental state would not be in the right place if I did do, get those things. And
Yeah.
after that time, I have spoken to a lot of people and they keep telling me that, okay, you know what? Sometimes therapy works because it is with the right person. So
Yeah.
you need to pick your doctor right. And I was like, okay, that's an entire process and I accept and I agree, but that's not something for me, because i
Yeah.
i was not in the right mind. I don't think I'm in the right mind space even now to get into
Yes.
therapy. Like you said, I'd probably want to get therapy in the future, but I know that right now at this particular moment it would be something that would destroy the carefully crafted together palace that I've created in my mind. And yeah, I feel like, as you said, self-help, self-healing is good, but
Mm-hmm.
getting therapy is also good. It depends from situation to situation. So I feel like for your situation and for my situation, it was not the right thing to do. It probably will be in the future, we never know. But
Yes.
for someone who does want to, who is facing all these situations, for them, I do suggest that, yeah, you need to get help. And there's no need to feel shy or feel ashamed about it. That's one thing.
Of
There's a
course.
lot of stigma. I don't want to say this, but there's a lot of stigma in India regarding mental health. It always crops up when something major happens, and then it just
Mm-hmm.
dies down. No one talks about
Very
it
true.
ever
Very
again. And I feel like people out there feel that, okay, so the only option for us is to do something drastic,
true.
but
Mm.
there are a lot of solutions for people to go through. So I do suggest people that if they are facing something, the right thing to do would be to, get into a therapy session, see if it works for you or not, and then be the judge of it. Like, at the end of the day, you are the judge. No one's forcing you to get into it, and no one's forcing you not to get into it. So
Yes. Of
I
course. It's a
think,
personal.
yeah. So wow, that went into a whole another direction, but kind
Yes.
of linked up to our this thing.
That's.
Okay. Would you like to take a breather or should we continue?
I'll just drink some water. Yes, I'm good to go.
Yes. Okay. So, I was reading The Secret recently, where there was this really insane theory that made a lot of sense, and I wanted to relate this to this podcast because, it spoke about healing, and they said
Mhm.
that our body is constantly regenerating. This means that there's a huge possibility that our thoughts of being sick are what prevents us to improve, that we sometimes push ourselves towards sickness. What do you think about this?
Hmm. I I don't know if I completely agree with this. I mean, solely because I honestly I do believe in the law of attraction. But at the same time I don't believe that you can justify people having cancer or uh, a heart attack all of a sudden out of nowhere can solely come from their process of attraction. So definitely, I know that you could um, get better soon from having a flu or um, a cold by thinking that, okay, I'm going to be better, I'm going to be fine. And that positive outlook can significantly impact how better you feel almost instantly.
Mhm.
But at the same time, when it comes to a serious illness, I don't believe that it can always be healed by just a positive outcome. Like, I know that it is very controversial with The Secret and the idea of a law of attraction, but sometimes I feel that it can, most things originate from within us. Most of the things we see in reality come from our own manifestations, but a lot of things that we see around us are from collective manifestations. So people subconsciously attracting things collectively. So if people around me were afraid, like at this point about COVID, everyone's worried about COVID, so collectively we are attracting sickness. That can mean that somebody who is not manifesting that for themselves might also be affected with it if they are not active in their minds to be telling themselves that, okay, I am healthy, I am fine. So I don't really know to what extent um, the manifestation can process can work in avoiding sickness altogether, but I do know that while you are experiencing sickness, it can positively impact how you feel. Because I wouldn't want to comment on something like this because people have lost a lot of loved
Yeah.
ones this year, and even in the past, you just cannot fathom why some things happen to people who are such positive souls, such bright lights in the world. And what could they possibly have thought that would have led to something detrimental happening to them? So I'm not sure to what extent my belief goes in terms of health, but I have read the works of Louise Hay,
Mhm.
who is a strong supporter of healing from with your mind, healing from sickness with your mind. And she says that she swears that cancer can be healed with just a positive outlook, and
Yeah.
she healed herself from cancer with just a positive outlook. So she says that, but at the same time, I don't know if my beliefs are strong enough to go there.
Yeah. No,
What do you think?
I I again agree and disagree. Like there is there's that notion, because as someone who has studied science, I know that the cells are constantly regenerating, and we are constantly shedding ourselves and going into a new kind of a body as such. And I do feel that sometimes we do hold on to our sickness. So there was this book that I was reading, and they said that when you are in that mood where you're like, okay, I'm sick, I'm sick, I'm sick, and someone comes up to you and goes like, okay, you're not sick, you can get better. But you have held that thought in your mind for so long that you are sick, that you don't want to agree to the fact that you can get better. I know it sounds crazy as hell, but I have
Yeah.
seen situations like that, where people can get better, but they don't want to because they don't believe that they can get better.
Very true.
Yes, there's that. But on the flip side, again, I don't really think like, I lost dad to cancer, and I don't think
Yes.
that it was something that he actively manifested within himself that okay, yeah, now I want to die. Stuff like that. Yeah, so I feel that it's something that is, balanced on a very thin line, where
Mm-hmm.
my beliefs lie on something like this, that I do agree that a positive outlook can help you get better, and I
Mm-hmm.
do agree healing works, like
Mm-hmm.
self healing and stuff like that. But I don't know up till what point, because it's not like, like when dad was sick, we were not like, okay, yeah, things should go bad, things should go bad. It was something that, we were all wishing for things to get better.
Yeah.
So, yeah, again, I feel like this thing is such a, okay, I forgot the word for it. This thing is, it's balanced very delicately as to where your thoughts lie and up to what extent
Mm-hmm.
something like this would work. Like, obviously we would all hope for something better to happen, but when something bad happens, that does not mean that the system was wrong or something was wrong. It just means that it's the way of life. Like, life
Yeah.
and death, it's something that you have to understand, accept, and do the whole nine. Because you can't be like, okay, there's no such thing as immorality kind of a thing, where no immortality, wait, yeah,
Mortality, yes.
immortality, where there's no such thing like that. And if there is, like, hello, I'm completely, I'm available, you, we can do that experiment together. but but I do feel that, it's something that you have to agree, and at that point of time, you need to understand that it's the matter of living, how well you live
Mm-hmm.
your life. And when death does knock on your door, it's whether you have lived your life happily enough, with a lot of joy and with a lot of care, and how many people you have impacted positively, and how many people are going to love you irrespective of when you die. So I think that's
Mm.
that's my thoughts on it, on self, like, the line that this like, that started this whole discussion. That's where my thoughts lie on it.
Mm. Okay. And I also feel that death is nothing to be feared. We don't know. We only know this. And what if what lies on the other side is something better? Then we would all be running towards it. So,
Yeah, I think
yeah.
death is feared by people because it is a part of the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's simply that.
yeah, it's simply that, like, you don't know what happens next. And
Mm-hmm.
what I want to tell, not only to people but also to myself, because this is something that I do all the time, where I'm just like, oh my god, I'm so afraid of death, because I've seen it firsthand. I have seen people dying, and it was something that was really scared. So scary. Ugh.
Mm.
Yeah. So, but I want to tell people and myself a lot of times that the future, again, is unreliable. You don't know what's going to happen next, and that's completely all right. And that's just it. This is life, and if everything was known, you wouldn't love it.
You wouldn't love it. What's the point in living then?
Yeah.
There's nothing to. There's no element of surprise.
Yeah.
So this is the way it is.
Yeah, and even if I do go out, like, if I sit you down and I'm like, hey, Momo, let me tell you everything that's going to happen in your life, every little thing, you will just be like,
Yeah.
okay, so, like, you won't be living life, you will be expecting or anticipating the next moment that's going to happen according to my, whatever I told you about, all the little
Very.
details I told you about. So life is just that. Life is living in the unknown and just experiencing and enjoying everything that comes with it.
Yes, definitely. Completely agree with you.
Yee. Thanks. Okay. So, why do you think is it important to heal yourself before a relationship? This was the question that that you wanted to talk about the most. So, why do you think it is important to heal yourself before a relationship?
Yes. Um, when we go into a relationship with an unhealed self, or some trauma that we've experienced in our past and we bring that into a relationship, we tend to become very selfish. And this is something that I've noticed firsthand. And we tend to be demanding, we tend to be doubtful, fearful when we have certain thoughts and ideals that we hold so close that are flawed because of the trauma that we've experienced as children. So, when we do go into a relationship, even if we are not healed from the trauma completely, like for me, I know that I am a long way from healed, calling myself
Yeah.
healed, or I don't even know if we ever get there. But at the same time, just being aware of the fact that I have these certain ideals and I have these certain flawed concepts about myself, about people, expectations that I have about people that may not fit in with everyone else. Just the awareness of that is enough for me to take a step back here and there when I find myself saying something or doing something that the other person might take as me asking for too much. So, by acknowledging and understanding the kind of trauma that I've faced and the implications of that trauma. For example, as a kid, I wanted a lot of attention and I never got it, like from anyone around me. So, at this point in a relationship for me, it is very important that I get a lot of attention. And it is in up to a point where I feel like if I don't have enough of it, I start to doubt my 4 year relationship where I'm like, does he still love me, or do I have enough of him with me to say that okay, fine, like like we are in this together.
Yeah.
So at least in those moments right now, by being aware of the things that I experienced in the past and the needs, the special needs that I've developed with time, I know that when I say something or I expect something of him, I know that I'm asking for too much. That awareness comes from acknowledging and accepting that, okay, there is trauma, there is this particular thing I've experienced. So, just being aware of the fact that you have certain needs that may be asking too much of someone else, that someone might not be able to deliver to, and no one should be subjected to. You are allowing that person to be, and you are also allowing yourself to be in a relationship, in a real relationship, because a toxic relationship is one in which you're literally chewing bits off of each
Yeah.
other, and whether it's in terms of time or friendship or money or anything at all. So in order for there to be a balance, and in order for you to be able to live as two different individuals on their own journeys, experiencing their own different realities while holding hands and while being together and while supporting each other, but not getting completely involved in each other's lives, I think it's very important to have, if not healed, to at least be aware of what you have experienced and the irrational thoughts and ideas and expectations you might have because of the things you've experienced.
That that was beautiful, and I loved the way that you portrayed your relationship, because I feel like, um so for me as a person, I got a lot of attention, but it
Mhm.
was the attention that, oh my gosh, she's doing so well in life, she's such a brilliant child, such this, she's such that. And in getting all of that attention, you start to expect attention every moment of your life, like,
Mhm.
like,
Very
oh
true.
my God. Yeah, you need attention, you need people to acknowledge you, to validate you for every single thing that you do. And I came to realize that after a very long process of understanding that I have this need to be like the center of attention. And that's mostly because of the way people perceived me since I was a child, like, oh my god, she's so brilliant, she's gonna do so many amazing things. And I understand that, but I also, like, sometimes think back to the past, and think back to those people, about the unrealistic expectations that they put on children. in terms of,
Very true.
oh my god, you have to do something like this or that. You're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a surgeon, you're going to be do this, you're going to do that. And then life happens, shit happens, and you are here. And as a person, I am happy where I am at right now, but I also know that, for me, attention has become something that validates my existence in a way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because I constantly, like, I'm constantly checking up on friends, and it's come to a point where I wake up in the morning and I switch on my Wi-Fi. Like, I switch off my Wi-Fi and then switch it on in the morning, just so that I
Yeah.
have a lot of notifications piling up, and a lot of
Yeah.
people saying hi, hello, this, that, or you know, it makes me feel validated. It makes me feel that
Mm.
there's someone out there who is thinking about me, and it's
Yeah.
become such a routine, and it's somewhat of a guilty pleasure, but I do love it because I'm like, okay, yeah, there's someone thinking about me. There was a point in my life when I was doing the social media marketing thing, and I used to get like tons of notifications, and I got annoyed by that ting ting noise that always happened on my.
That's the first thing I thought about. I was like, I would hate to receive notifications in the morning because I would think it's from work.
Yeah,
But yeah.
yeah, no, there was, it happened twice. Okay, like when I was working as a social media manager, twice in my life, both the times it became such a annoying thing to wake up in the morning and have so many notifications. And that moment of joy that I felt when I got messages from people was
Mhm.
overshadowed by the get up in the morning and start working. And then I thought that I would be annoyed by it with it forever, but then I left that job,
Yeah.
and then I'm here,
Yeah.
and I still get up in the morning and I check up on my messages because I feel so validated because of that. And that's something that I kind of understand where you are coming from and where my needs are also coming from. So
Yes.
yeah, two different perspectives, but that's such an important thing for me also, because like if I am in a relationship, I would love to be validated. I would love to be given all the attention. But
Mm-hmm.
again, as you said, you need to understand when you're asking for too much, because when you're just asking, and not giving, it becomes a
Yeah.
toxic relationship, and neither of you improve in that kind of a relationship. It's just
Very
you're staying there because it's comfortable to ask, and not
true.
give. And that's the way both
Yeah.
of the sides feel. But it's not a relationship that helps you improve or get you anywhere in life. It's just there.
Yeah. Very true.
Oof. Okay, so the next question is, do you think that you have already addressed this in your previous question, but do you think healing should be an ongoing process, because being in a relationship allows you to draw from that strength and get better? Like, would you like to add anything to this from the previous question answer that you have already told me?
I do believe that healing is an ongoing process. I don't think that there is a goal to be reached as such. There is a lot to be achieved, but there is more that can be achieved. I do believe that some people reach a state of enlightenment where um, not a lot matters anymore, and it is just their existence, and they realize that they're existing, and people around them are existing, and it's all one and the same, and it's all just different energies. But I think until you to a point, and even then, even people who do attain enlightenment, they still work
Yeah.
to ensure that they are disconnected from material pleasures and um, the human material life, basically. So I think it's an ongoing process for people like us who are living in the normal world, and who are on a spiritual path entirely, and we still have our um, goals and aspirations, as well as incorporating spirituality into our daily lives, and that's what we do. And I feel that in that situation there's definitely a lot to be achieved, and achieved in the sense that a lot to be healed from, and there will always be more to understand, more to unlearn. Healing is something that is an ongoing process. There is no end goal. There is nothing to be attained as such. It is something that improves the quality of your life throughout, through and through. So there is simply nothing to be um, achieved in the long run, and it can continue for as long as you want to put in the work into building up yourself and working through the kind of trauma that you would have experienced in your life.
Yeah. And do you think your relationship can,
Hmm.
like, it can play a role in helping you gain strength from it when you're feeling down? So, like,
Mm.
will it help you get better? Will your relationship allow you to draw the strength that you need to heal from it? Do you think that's something that's possible? And do you think it's important to have in a relationship the ability to do all
Okay.
these things? Yeah.
Okay. I think that especially I can talk about my perspective of this, because in my relationship I've been alone on the path of healing, in the sense that I wanted to do this entirely by myself. And my entire healing journey, from the moment I started acknowledging the problems that I had, started getting help and talking to people, these were things that I did on my own, and I continue to do on my own. And I know that everyone, I I might have the strength to be able to do that, because of the fact that for a majority of my childhood I had to deal with things by myself, and I had no one to run to or speak to or anything as such for over a decade. So maybe because of that, I've become very independent when it comes to things about myself that I want to work on. So, having a relationship has definitely contributed to the external factor of things, like how we spoke about before. So, it's having a shoulder to cry on. It's somebody to rely on, which I didn't have before. So, if if I did have a shoulder to cry on without the relationship, if I had that kind of a support system outside of my relationship, then I don't know honestly how much of a difference it would have made, because my partner coming into my life came at a crucial point of time when I needed support, like, physically as well. I just needed somebody to be there. But when it comes to my journey of self healing and healing from the trauma and the wounds that I carry, I don't know how much of a depth this relationship adds to that particular journey. I know that it aids it, it helps me because I know that I have someone to rely on, but I don't know if it helps advance me forward, because these are things that I know only I know well. Like, I know that
Yeah.
I know myself and I know my wounds and I know my needs better than anyone else and better than anyone ever will. Like, I cannot expect another person to understand that, and neither should they understand that, or should they be part of this, because everyone's a relationship. For me, an ideal relationship is when two people can be completely themselves, have their own space, and function together to support each other's goals, whether it's self healing or whether it's attaining an external goal, a material goal. It is just two people supporting each other. So, externally, yes, I have had the privilege of having the support, but when you come down right to the healing part of it, I don't believe that a relationship is required or needed for you to progress in your self healing journey at all.
Mhm. Okay, so this is a personal question, and it's up
Yeah,
to you if you want to answer that or not.
of course.
And what I wanted to ask you was, when you realize that you have a shoulder to lean on and to cry on in the beginning of your journey, did it
Yeah.
act as a kind of a contradicting point to your thoughts on healing, like on being as well? Like, in terms of the external life that you were leading, did you
Hmm.
feel that, till a particular point of time you were completely alone dealing with stuff in your life, and then now you have a
Hmm.
shoulder to cry on? Do you trust it or do you not trust it? Do you want it to be there or do you not want it to be there? Was there a point of time in your life or at the beginning of your relationship where you felt something like this?
This is a really good question because in the beginning of our relationship, which was like almost 5 years ago now,
Mhm.
um, there was a lot of resistance from my side, and I did not want to let anyone in because I did not trust a single soul. And the only person that I ever did trust was myself, not a single soul. So it was really hard for me to bear open all the ugly, dark parts of myself, the things that I considered ugly and dark, which were quite evidently just my inner child wounds.
Yeah.
Mm. I wasn't ready to show that to anyone, but he broke through them. And when he was breaking through them and seeing the dark and ugly parts and not getting scared, I started getting scared. And I not freaked out about this because I would be if someone were to kind of expose themselves in this way, and who they truly are. But it did help in the sense that having the relationship uh, come to me at such a point where I did not trust anyone helped me in beginning to trust people more. So that it definitely helped with. And but even now, even after all these years, like I would still try and resolve something that I'm going through by myself in my own head um than speak about it to anyone else. So um like even friends come and ask me why they share their problems with me all the time, but I never go to them when I have a problem, and I often talk about it in retrospect. So when I get those questions, I really don't know what to say because I don't know how to talk about it. Like I only know how to help myself because that's how I've been programmed and conditioned from childhood, and that's worked for me. So I think I've come to a point where my intuition is strong, and I also am able to trust my intuition when it comes to making a decision for myself. So yeah, I do feel that the relationship um it did come at a very advantageous point of time for me. I met him at a very low point in my life, and he lifted me up in the sense that um, I had somebody to hold when I was going through really difficult times. But when it comes to spirituality, or when it comes to how I view life for myself, I can't say that it depends on anyone else because I truly feel that the soul connection, the connection we have with our inner selves, is much stronger than a connection we could ever have with any other soul. So, yeah.
That's beautiful, and that kind of links to what I want to share on this podcast, via this podcast and via my Instagram, that at the end of the day, you have so much power within you, and all you have to do is tap into it to, help you deal with at least not all, but like most of the situations that you face. And wherever you're not able to deal with a situation, at least it gives you that strength to deal with it. Like
Hmm. Hmm.
that much needed strength, it all lies within you. And I think your point kind of validated the existence of the soul's conquest for me. That's the thing that we are all aiming for, that we have that connection within ourselves, with ourselves, to allow
Hmm.
us to face life.
Yep,
Yeah.
very true.
Okay. Okay, do you think spirituality is important in a relationship? What part does it play in growing and getting better and healing?
Hmm. Okay. I feel that spirituality is not essential in a relationship if both parties are not spiritual, both partners do not require um and if so in a relationship, if both partners are not spiritual, it would not be required. If one partner is spiritual but does not expect the other partner to be spiritual, then that works as well.
Yeah.
But for me, when I was introduced to spirituality, I wanted to share it with as many people as I could, and I wanted to share that message. So I have been very vocal about my spiritual beliefs and the things that I've discovered from the very beginning with my partner. And he had a very um he is inquisitive by nature, so he wanted to know and he wanted to know more. So he would often sit with me and go through the things that I'm reading, or maybe view the videos that I would be watching, and kind of we would have these discussions about our own beliefs. But um I can say that it is not something that um, dominates our relationship or the kind of conversations we have with each other.
Mhm.
Partly because I am spiritual, but he is spiritual as well as religious. So he has his own religious beliefs. He has um, a sprinkling of spirituality and a few spiritual beliefs and his own ideals. But it is not something that is based in the foundation of our relationship. And I find that that's completely all right, because I don't know how much I enjoy spiritual chatter.
Mhm.
It is um I feel that the more you talk about it, the um less essence there is to um your own understanding of spirituality, because it is something to be felt, it is
Yeah.
something to be understood, right? It's not something to be broken down, to be analyzed. It
Yeah.
is something that, yeah, comes from within you and ends within you. Like the moment it goes out of you, you can't explain what you feel. Like, you were trying to explain to me the other day how you felt after you did the meditation, and you were at a loss. Like, you were like, I don't know how to describe it, but you'll feel it when you feel it. And that is that is all there is to it. It's just, it is. And sometimes it's not even the feeling, it's just that knowing. And um because I know that I have experienced it at some points, but at this particular point in life I am very out of touch with my own spiritual self because of all the material things that I have going on around me. But he does his practices, he does his yoga, he does his breath work, he's very consistent and disciplined. So in that sense, he is more in touch with who he is. So it can vary from person to person. For me, spirituality is not about the practice, it's more about knowing my inner self and my connection with myself. But for someone else, it can be their spiritual practice, their routine, their set of behaviors that they perform.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is not necessary in a relationship. I think that it can add a lot of value to a relationship, especially if you feel that it lacks that depth.
Mhm.
Um, you would expect from your partner to discuss these things would add depth to your relationship and gain better understanding of who the other person is and what their beliefs are. But that's as far as it goes. I don't think it is essential or that it necessarily needs to be in the foundation of every relationship.
Wow. And I loved what you said, and I wanted to add on to this one point where you were talking about, how speaking about spirituality kind of decreases the essence that it has for you. And I was reading this book by Osho,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
it is called "Come Follow to You." And there was this
Yes.
really beautiful line that he says that he relates it to Christianity and Christ and the early practices, but he also explains it in a very modern kind of a way where, if you go around telling a person that you love them every single day, every single moment from morning to night, it kind of loses its touch, it kind of loses that magical feeling, that intimacy that it creates, um, the goosebumps that you get when someone is like, I love you. At the, it's something that is a very sacred thing. It is something to be felt. And I related to that a lot because for me spirituality is okay. There are a lot of dimensions of spirituality. There are a lot of dimensions that I have to explore, but I don't really want to because I am happy at the place I am right now in my spiritual journey. I feel like this is a place that I'm happy to be at. I don't want to explore further. But for me,
Yes.
spirituality is something that is, as you said, it is something that is felt within. It is for me the balance between being a part of the universe and being human. That for me is
Yep.
spirituality. The understanding that you need to have that that you have the power, but you don't get drunk on it. You have the power
Mm.
of the universe, but you don't get drunk on it. You don't go crazy about, yeah, let me, I can do anything in life and no one is gonna say anything to me about it. For me, it's that understanding and it's that balance. For me, spirituality is balance, and I'm happy about that. And yeah, speaking about it all the time gets exhausting, not only for you, but also for the person in front of you, because then it
Mm.
becomes something that's kind of like, reading the newspaper and talking about the daily events and, okay, yeah, something like this is happening in that part of the world, or this is what's happening in this election and that, and stuff like that. It becomes
Yeah.
something that becomes meaningless chatter. And
Yeah.
that I agree with what you said, is because spirituality is something to be felt. It's something that, when you finally have a chat about it with someone that is understanding of, someone who doesn't just brush it aside, and someone who would love to talk to you about it, and you have that moment of conversation, and you both feel at peace, and you are also feeling really intimate about it, because it's something that's really close to your heart, and the person who is sitting with you understands that. So
Yep.
yeah, for me, I really connected with that particular point of what you said, that it's something that the less you speak about it, the better you feel about it.
Yes. Very true.
Yeah, I think that was what I wanted to say, and I hope that
Yeah.
people listening to this understand my point of view, because sometimes I just blabber stupid stuff, and I hope people expect and understand that.
No, that was perfectly well.
Chalo, I'll hold you to it. And okay, so my next question is, what is something that you have recently embraced about yourself?
Mm. Something that I recently embraced about myself.
Mm-hmm.
I think 2020 has been, this whole year has been about embracing new things about myself. So it started with accepting my body for what it is, and um, accepting my physical appearance for what it is, and not trying to change a thing. That's where it started. And it went far deeper. I think the deeper I got into um, this self development growth journey. So I think the most recent thing would be the fact that I forgave myself for always having to compare my journey to someone else's. And this not only includes professional growth or academic growth or something that's measurable, but also in terms of maturity and understanding and intimacy and um, closeness that somebody forms to another person that I am not able to form, or a bond that someone might share with another that I am not able to foster with the other person. So I used to compare and analyze, and I still do. I'm not used to. I should correct myself very clearly. I do it to this very day, and I do it in the same frequency and um, depth that I used to before. Nothing changed, um, except for the fact that I've become all right with it. I've kind of forgiven my, because there used to be this constant battle in my head about, okay, you should not be thinking this way. You should stop comparing yourself. And there's this voice that says, but this is happening and you're in this situation and it's not going right for you. So there are these two voices, one that is comparing and one that is judging the voice that is comparing. So that judgy voice is out of my head now. So I think that is one thing that I've embraced about myself recently, that it is okay that I am comparing myself. It is fine. It is all right. I am not going to be able to change that so quickly or so easily. I think it'll only come with um, going forward on this journey, maturing a little bit with my spiritual self, and maybe hopefully someday I get to a point where I don't need to look at someone else. And it's in very specific situations. So it's not the traditional, like I said, it's not about academics or professional or money, or when it comes to any of that. It's the very specific things, like someone sharing a bond with someone that I'm not able to foster with them. That's the standard example of um, the kind of thing that would have bothered me before that doesn't really bother me now. So I think that's something that I've embraced.
I'm really glad that you did that, and you need to teach me a little bit about it, because like I too have come to a point where I agree with the voice in my head that it's natural to compare yourself and there's no need to judge yourself constantly, but that voice
Yeah.
constantly judges irrespective of the fact of how many times I'm telling it not to judge. Because yeah, I I compare myself a lot. Like I look at people who have lost their weight very quickly,
Yeah.
and I go and I'm like, but why haven't I lost that much weight? Even I'm trying, I'm doing all this crazy stuff to, to do that. And, there, for me, a lot of comparison happens regarding my health and regarding the expectations I have of my health. And,
Mm,
like, because of PCOD and stuff like that,
yeah.
it's crazy because, I don't know if this is too TMI kind of a thing, but yeah, like when I miss my
Yeah.
periods and because of my PCOD, I miss it for like 5 6 months. I've had it like once in the last year, and that's
Yeah.
crazy because as a person, it stresses the hell out of me. As a woman, it stresses the hell out of me because I'm like, but what if I want to get pregnant in the future? And I
Yes.
constantly compare myself to that standard of to that knowledge that okay, yeah, I have to get pregnant in the future, so I need to get constant periods. And I see people in their PCOD journey where they are
Yeah.
getting constant periods and stuff like that, and I'm jealous and I'm angry, and all those
Mm,
emotions crop up, and I'm just like, oh god,
mm,
why is this not happening to me too? Like
very true.
yeah. And
That's exactly it, that is such a specific thing, right? But it bothers the hell out of you. So
yeah.
it is, it can be such small things that just eat you up
Yeah.
and have that voice come up.
It's so messed up though, and you start to judge yourself for it when it's normal. Like I know at this point of time that it's normal for me to not get my periods because of this amount of
Yeah.
stress 2020 had on me. Like the emotional, the
Yes.
psychological, the physical stress that it gave me. And
Hmm.
it directly relates to your body and your health, and I understand that. But at that point of time I used to stress out a lot about it, like oh my god, because sometimes you get into that nagging feeling that if I haven't gotten my periods for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, what the damn hell is happening? And
Yeah. Yeah.
like we try to make fun of it, ki, oh yeah, you got pregnant or what, this and that. Too
Yeah.
much jokes we used to make in our house, but like that was a way for people to relieve that stress off of my mind, that something that is biological and that is supposed to happen is not happening with me.
Mhm.
And I
Yes. Yeah.
compare myself a lot about it, and now I'm just like, if it happens it will happen, if it doesn't happen it won't happen. Like all I have to do is deal with the symptoms of not getting periods. And
Mm.
this is this one thing, okay, that I know you're straight kind of like diverting from the topic, but I wanted
No,
to
no.
talk about it. And
Yes.
that's the thing that people think that if you miss your periods, it's all fun and games. Oh yeah, you didn't get your periods for 1 month, 2 months. That's cool, like you're so lucky. And I'm like, no, you don't know
Yeah. Yeah.
the shit that
I
goes in your
completely
mind
get
with
it.
your body. your hormones are completely messed up. You are
Yeah,
angry, irritated, annoyed by the world, by every small thing. It's like PMSing from the moment your periods ended till the moment you get your periods again. That's what
yeah, yeah,
not getting your periods regularly means.
yeah,
Yeah, it's so messed up. And that's something that acted as a comparison point for me in my
yeah.
life, was the fact that, something that was supposed to happen isn't happening. And
Mm-hmm.
I used to get angry about it, and I used to judge myself for getting angry about it. And now I'm just like,
Yeah.
whatever. But I do need to
What?
learn. Yeah, I do need to learn from you though. Like, it feels like I need to have a nice long chat with you about all this stuff after this podcast ends. Yeah,
We should.
we should. Definitely, most definitely. So, what was something that led you to, shut down the judgy voice? Like, what helped you shut down the judgy voice?
Um, I think it was understanding the root of where the comparison rose from.
Mhm,
So it again goes back to the fact that I always had to work to get attention. So I didn't get it. I would automatically start analyzing my own shortcomings or what I might have said, what I might have done that has led to this particular situation where I am um, emotionally abandoned.
mhm,
And that constant thought process of analyzing, okay, what went wrong? What did I say? What did I do wrong? What did that other person do right to get that attention and to take it away from me? Kind of got me into the mechanism of constantly comparing myself.
mhm,
So it would be if it were in the scenario of being in class and another student is doing well and they are getting um, all the attention and great reviews and great marks and everyone's talking about them, it would have me thinking, okay, what are they doing that I'm not doing right? And the comparison would start there. So those things didn't really bother me at that much at that point because I had other things to think about. But at this point now, when I am further along in my spiritual journey and I have hopefully matured quite a bit from then,
mhm,
I think it has gone to more serious um, um, more serious elements, like someone close to me in my family doesn't have a bonding with me. So why do they have a bonding with someone else but not with me? What am I doing wrong? What am I not doing right that they are denying me the attention and affection, but they're so free and willing to give it to someone else? So just knowing where it rises from, what rooted this particular feeling, is enough for me to tell myself, okay, calm down. It's completely all right that you're feeling this way. And it's only because you experienced these things in your childhood and that you are taking that along with you on your journey right now. So, as soon as that awareness comes into the mind, which doesn't happen as instantaneously as I would want it to,
mhm.
um, voice is kind of shut down. It reduces in volume when it eventually shuts down.
That was beautifully explained, Momo. And I'm genuinely so glad that you're willing to share all these things about yourself with the world. And like, I'm genuinely so proud of you for sharing stuff like this, because I know how hard it can be to share emotional stuff like this. And I'm genuinely so thankful and grateful to you for actually coming out here and sharing it with the people, and with anyone else who's experiencing the same things, to tell them that, okay, yeah, it's all right, you're not alone. There are people
Yeah,
out there and you will get better. So I'm genuinely thankful to you for sharing all this with us. Deem.
I'm so happy. It's it brings me so much of lightheartedness to be talking about these things.
Wow, that's beautiful. Seriously, you're beautiful. Okay, enough flirting. Okay. So what is, and this is the last question, so just feel free. What is your self-care or spiritual routines? Like, do you have any routines? Like, you did say that your partner has routines that he follows, but do
Mm.
you as well have any routines that you don't necessarily stick to on a very consistent pace, but you do know that these routines are there to fall back on when life goes to shit?
Okay. So, self care, yes, I have a routine. And when it comes to self care, I am very particular about what I incorporate into my day. So, the day starts with waking up on time for work and having enough of a margin to be able to check in with myself before the day starts. So during that's short margin of time, I use it to journal and write down what I have planned for the day. That gives me some sort of balance, and it has me looking forward to the day.
Mm-hmm.
And before I wake up, I kind of think about the things that I want. So I have a board on Pinterest. This is something that I found online. Like people use this as a tool to kind of look at first thing in the morning. So it's not exactly a vision board, but it is just a collection of different pins from here and there that's all been put together in this one folder, a private folder that has different elements of life, pictures that I look at and I'm instantly happy, or pictures that denote something that I would want to look forward to in the future. So, those things that I look up first thing in the morning, and when I see that, it gives me enough motivation to get up and start the day. So that is something that is very essential to my self care. And during the day, I'm working most of the day. I remember to drink my water and I remember to um, talk to people as much as I can at home, whoever's there, so that I don't feel isolated. But another very important, perhaps the most important part of my self care routine is working out. So working out, even if it means for 15, 20 minutes a day, whatever I can manage to do in a day, it makes me feel good almost instantly. Like there's nothing that lifts my spirits more. As much as I don't want to do it, the feeling after is worth it.
Okay.
So yeah, the feeling after is what I chase. Like I love that feeling, and I would make sure to incorporate time to feel that way, not to burn calories, not to lose weight, not doing it for anything else, just for that feeling of satisfaction. I do it just for that. And in turn, like, everything else happens um as additional benefits. And at night, my wind down routine is very important to me. So that's usually just time away from everyone else. And it's in my sacred space, lights down, just probably one little light on. And I like to play puzzles on my phone and note down the things that I'm grateful for. In fact, I have a journal for it right here where I kind of write down affirmations,
Yeah.
things that I'm grateful for every single day. I try to do it as often as I can. And yeah, that pretty much concludes it. And I feel that I don't do all these things every single day.
Yeah.
There are quite a few days where I end up doing nothing. And but those days don't feel as good. Like these things have genuinely impacted and improved the quality of daily living.
Yeah. That's wow. That was an amazing session, and that was an amazing self-care routine. I love the idea about the Pinterest board kind of a thing, and I think I will do that. Like my brother does that. He has this house, his dream house. So he
Yeah,
named it Le Jardin, and he has all these photos and stuff like that. And he keeps like,
yeah,
that's something that inspires him and motivates him. Like days, we are all just like, oh my god, Arka, you're not gonna, that's too much. That's not possible to have, like the amount of stuff that you want to have in one single house. That's not
yeah,
possible. But he's
yeah,
like, yeah, I don't care, I'm still gonna do it. And that
Yeah.
is something that I find inspirational, and I think I need to do something similar to that for myself as well. And yeah, that was beautiful. Damn.
Yay, I'm so happy. I thought you might find that Pinterest tip a little nice because as soon as I'd seen it, I
Yeah.
thought of sharing it with you, but I think I'd forgotten along the way. And I'm glad we had the conversation today because we could talk about it.
Yay.
Yay.
Okay, so that was an amazing conversation with you, Momo. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm sure I learned a lot. I'm sure people out there listening to this podcast, whenever they have the time to, are learning a lot from you, your journey, and all the things that you have, learned, accumulated, and understood about yourself. And just whoa, I'm genuinely so proud of you for the journey that you have taken. And yeah, I'm just continue inspiring us, and being yourself, because that's one thing that I love about you, that you're honestly so honest about being yourself, and you're such an amazing inspiration to all of us. Thank you so much.
I love you.
Love you too. As for all of you guys who are listening, be sure to tune into the next episode where we will be speaking about learning to pace ourselves during our healing journey, during our life, your habits, when you are looking to create your own habits, when you want to achieve something, how you can pace yourself. We'll be speaking about that in the next episode. So be sure to tune in. Until next time, toodles.